All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Demystifying Complex Buying Groups with Altify Insights, a live showcase. My name is Tim Wulf, Director of Product Marketing with Upland Altify, and I'm joined by one of our Senior Solutions Consultants, Matt Weisberg. Before we begin, the session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available after the webinar. We do want to hear your questions, so please enter them into the questions panel in the webinar platform, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. So let's get started. The key challenge facing most revenue teams is that they've lost connection with their prospects and customers, and now every sales leader is pushing their team to collaborate and build intimacy with these buyers. To do this, it's critical to understand who the key players are and how to solve their challenges. What we've seen is buying groups continue to grow. The typical buying group for a complex B2B purchase involves about 6 to 10 decision makers in addition to influence. If a seller is working 40 deals a year, that's 300 to 500 relationships to track and manage. Also, most sellers report that they reach key stakeholders almost always, but only 14% of buyers agree. That's a huge disconnect and means nearly 90% of contacts sellers speak with are not stakeholders in a deal. And lastly, sales experiences still frustrate buyers. Almost 2/3 of prospect meetings don't get past the first meeting due to lack of perceived value. This failure to communicate value happens when a seller is not aligned to what each person cares about. For one person in a buying group, the product purchase might decrease their anxiety. For another, it might help improve productivity, and those two sources of value are very different. So we've developed a solution to combat these challenges called Altify Insights. Only Altify Insights unlocks who the key players are and why your company is best positioned to solve their business challenges. Altify Insights helps you navigate complex buying groups and gain insight into your buyer's business drivers. After all, it's not only about finding deals, it's about closing them. With this solution, you're able to cultivate deeper relationships with buyers and capture what matters to them, positioning you as a trusted advisor while everyone else will just be vendors. So Altify Insights is an application of 2 parts, Relationship Map and Insight Map. We've created a simple and intuitive way to visualize key decision makers and develop effective relationship strategies combined with buyer-focused templates to engage prospects and consistently surface critical business insights. The core of what Altify Insights is to help you focus on the deals that matter, collaborate across your entire revenue team, all natively within Salesforce. So why are we different? We deliver both the who and the why, so you can get down to the bottom of what matters to your key contacts. We're built for collaboration to engage and build trust with your buyers. We provide a flexible path to meet your sales transformation needs and goals. And Altify is built on methodology that delivered by the team that created the category for account selling. Now, I've said a lot, but let's switch gears and see Altify Insights in action. Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim. Hello, everybody, and it's wonderful to be here with you today. I am now sharing my screen, and so we are taking a look inside of Altify Insights. But before we actually move into Altify Insights, I'd like to back up a little bit and hit on something that Tim just spoke about. Why are we here today? Well, we're looking at Salesforce, a CRM. The whole purpose of Salesforce is to help us do sales better, to manage our customer relationships, for example. And I think we can all agree that the basis, the fundamental aspect of sales is to really and authentically try to provide value for the person across the table. And if that's the case, if we can all agree that providing value and understanding who we can provide value to, why they need it, and also how we might be able to do that, if that's the key to sales, then all we're about to see here is our product, which really makes that more possible. We're back to fundamentals. So hitting on what Tim said before, most deals are not moving forward because we don't understand the value, or the customer doesn't understand the value we have to offer. And part of the reason why that happens sometimes is because sales teams are operating inside of a paradigm that's a little bit difficult. And when I say a difficult paradigm, I'm talking about this. This is a typical account record with the details showing. This is a typical related list section of an account record. And this is really where all of our most important value information is stored, right? We're talking about the who. This is our list of contacts, 6+, right? As we mentioned, six to 10 evaluators and decision makers. We have contracts, notes, and attachments, opportunities, orders, cases, et cetera, so on and so forth. And if you extrapolate this out to a normal seller's kind of portfolio, if you will, perhaps somebody's working 10 deals at a time, as Tim said, hundreds of records, hundreds of relationships, and then multiply that by the amount of notes that are required to truly understand the who, the why, the how, right? And we have perhaps hundreds or thousands of notes and really important pieces of information, which makes life awfully difficult when you're trying to put together a great presentation, a great meeting, which will provide that value and that proposition of value that really proves itself out. And so, welcome back to Altify Insights. This is our relationship map. And as you can see, instead of looking at lists and then lists within lists with many, many tabs, we have a simple single hub, if you will, where we all come together as a team, in this case, an account team. This also works for opportunities. So whether it's an opportunity or an account, the best way that you can possibly understand the who and the why, right? The people and the problems they may have, and then of course the value that we have to offer them being our solutions. You should probably do so in more of a visualized manner like this, where we have all of those people that would normally be many, many tabs centralized in one place. That helps us to operate together, to do task management, and really, even if you're in leadership, it gives you a forest for the trees strategic overview of this account and the key players therein, the people who really matter most to our strategic initiatives to provide value. But it also, as you'll see momentarily, as I go and hover over, for example, Clara, gives us all of the key insights into each of these individuals without navigating outside of this tab, right? So I don't have to leave this tab. I don't have to open up multiple tabs to understand what's driving Clara, what keeps her up at night, what are her initiatives and her goals, what is she driving towards? These are the really important pieces that we need to authentically be curious about, and we need to truly understand if we're going to provide the value necessary to close deals. And so since we have that at just a hover, not even a click, this is really valuable. And again, back to basics. We're bringing it back to the fundamentals where we can just provide all the most important operational space and all of the information that we take during meetings when we're learning about our customers, all in one place, okay? So like I said before, leadership might look at this and get a really good forest for the trees view. But what if I'm a seller? This is going to be clearly valuable for me in different ways. I'm going to be a little bit more tactical about the way I move. And if we're going to demystify the complexity of a buying group, even this could be a little bit complex. And so we have to have the ability to drill down into specific situations. But if I'm walking into this today, myself, my name is Matthew Weisberg. You see my name here on Clara. Clara is a key player in this particular situation, reporting directly to the CEO. And you can see that she's a key player because that's denoted by the little key next to her face. When I hover, you see that there. You can also see the yellow bar down here indicating that she's neutral currently towards myself, our initiatives, and perhaps the value that we have to offer Clara and the many notes we've taken now about what Clara really stands for, what she needs to have happen to succeed in her own right. Okay, and so because Clara is a neutral, and because we don't have much information on Clara yet, other than the things we've learned from other people, it's essential that we get a meeting with Clara to try to turn those tides and hopefully turn Clara's card green. The way that I'll do that as a seller is I'll first check out this gray box here in the middle of these cards. You can see a name here, Brian Rice. Brian is the CSM on my account team in this particular case, and Brian has a good relationship with Mitch. And we can tell that by clicking on Mitch's card here and just scrolling down a little bit to see that the coverage level for Mitch is in depth. Now, please note that in a normal CRM environment, in a normal Salesforce experience, if we were to have clicked on Mitch, we would be in a different tab. And if we wanted to understand the notes, the politics, the context, and all of the other things that we're now seeing for Mitch specifically, we might have 3 or 4 or 5 other tabs, the note tabs, the attachment tabs, etc. open. Instead, we see a slide out and we're still in context of the map. We're even still in the account. Okay, and this is hugely beneficial when it comes time to saving time and really understanding everything when you're managing hundreds of relationships across multiple accounts and or opportunities. So back to the story. If Brian knows Mitch really well, we can see that by this coverage card here, saying that we have an in-depth relationship with Mitch. Then I know that I might be able to ask a favor of Brian, my CSM, to perhaps work with me to speak with Mitch directly. And I've done that here. So you can see we have inline task management capabilities. I can assign actions out to myself or to my team members. If I'm in leadership, this is particularly useful, but if I'm simply an AE and I want to work with my team, this is the best place to do it because we're in context and we can see so much information here. So I've gone ahead and I've asked Brian for a meeting with Mitch. If he can set up that meeting, we'll learn a lot about Patty and Clara. And why are we talking about Patty before we get to Clara? Because you can see this clear kind of golden brick road here, right? We have this green line and then another green line. This is positive influence, another fantastic piece of information that would otherwise be practically impossible to see on a related list or otherwise. We're able to visualize it here together in context of all the other pieces of information. So we can see Mitch, somebody we know well, somebody Brian knows well. We can see Patty, another person we know well who supports us and who Brian also knows. And then a direct influence line from Patty to Clara, my key contact, who I'm now responsible for hopefully turning into a supporter or a mentor who might be able to help us qualify more opportunities, and if I can prove our value, ultimately close future deals. And so this is exactly what we've done. I've asked Mitch for help, and what we'll do then is from an operational standpoint, we'll utilize our insight map, which I'm about to go over to now, as a centralized notes hub, if you will. So again, why leave the tab when we can operate here in context? Now, before I actually get into, I'm going to leave the storyline for a moment and just note here that what we're looking at are specific sections, and these sections represent organizational top-down goals that we've learned about, in this case, this company, Ancaster. We know that they have issues with revenue growth, issues with sales productivity, issues with customer retention. And we are going to utilize this insight map, which is integrally connected to relationship map through the people, because realistically, these notes actually belong to those people. When we have meetings with people like Mitch, you can see this meeting notes section over here. I'm going to take notes and I'm going to associate Mitch to this particular insight. And that's how we were able to see all the things we learned about Clara during those meetings we were just talking about, just by hovering over Clara's avatar, okay? So if we're taking notes here and ultimately assigning them to the major overarching themes that this account has problems with or that they have needs for, then we can break these down even further and structure our notes into goals, pressures, initiatives, and obstacles. This is all configurable, by the way. If your vernacular is different, either way, this is perfect to help your sellers really, really be curious and to ask great questions about the most important things that really matter to the people on the other end of the call. In fact, it seems to me that asking questions is one of the best ways to provide value because people really understand their own situation. It's hard to tell them exactly what value you have to offer until they've told you what kind of problems they might have and how you might actually have that value for them. And that's exactly what we're looking at here. This is discovery. We've asked questions of Mitch, we've asked questions then of Patty, and ultimately when we have a meeting with Clara, we will utilize this information to prove we've been listening. And these notes will turn into a fantastic presentation wherein we'll be able to show Clara the kind of value that her team members believe that we have for them, and ultimately perhaps provide a solution. You can see the last section down here is called solutions. So this is the how, right? Or the why and the how, right? How can we provide value? That's the solution, right? So the solutions are going to be our solutions. These are going to be notes about the problems that the people on the relationship map are having. And just to backtrack a minute, these are the people that matter most in the account. And so again, if we go back to that initial cliche, that agreement, that sales is all about that fundamental providing value to the people that matter and really being able to do so in a cohesive and clear way, then this is everything you'll need to be able to operate and to be able to close deals. Straightforward. So back to Insight Map for a moment. We have that meeting, we take notes, then we're able to present to Clara and solve her issues in the future. Insufficient cross-sell offerings, company missing forecasted earnings. We have all sorts of solutions there with this particular solution. You can have as many of these solutions in here as you'd like. Okay. And one really important thing to note here is that these solutions can also be a sales enablement tool. So as you can see, I've clicked into this card again. We're not leaving this tab. We don't want to leave a tab if we don't have to, because all of this information is, after all, inside of Salesforce, our single source of truth. We're bringing all the most important information to your sellers and to your team all in one place. You can see when I click on the card, this is enablement information, the key messages and benefits for this particular solution, the objections and responses we may run into, the positioning that we need to have for this particular industry that we're working with, high yield questions, collateral, et cetera, so on and so forth. So any bits that your enablement and marketing team has to offer your sellers can be put right in line so your sellers can utilize it, and also dynamically switched out over time. No need for any emailing, repositories or otherwise. Okay. So when we take all of this in stride, if we take it all together and we know that we have all the most important people, the key players, the 6 to 10 people that are going to be at that decision-making table at the end of a deal, all in one place, in context of one another, and we have all of the most important notes that we have been able to operate together to take those notes in one place, available for everybody to reference. When it comes time to having that key meeting, that presentation with Clara, things will go much more smoothly, and my team will, the entire period of that sales process, for example, will truly understand what's going on and we'll be able to collaborate together through the functionalities that we've just seen. One more note here that I think is absolutely essential is that this is an awfully large map. We were talking about complex buying groups just a moment ago. It's really important that we're able to drill down further than, or in a different way than clicking into a card. And so I wanted to show filters here because sometimes when you're looking at an account record like this, we only need to see certain aspects of the account. Maybe we only need to see the marketers. Maybe we only want to see the ops people. Maybe we need to see the people who support us most when we're kind of grasping to find that way to get to Clara, to really prove our value to Clara. And this is going to be one of the best ways we can do that, finding our mentors and supporters, finding the key people on our team who know them, and then going from there. Okay. So that, in a nutshell, is Altify Insights. And Tim, I'd love to pass it back to you and then open up the floor for any questions.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take a moment now for questions. I don't see any in the question panel at this point, but we'll give you a minute as Matt was wrapping up. Oh, here's a question for you, Matt. Can you print out the relationship map?
That's a great question. Yes, absolutely. You can print, and you can also export as an executive brief, if you will. And so both the relationship map and the insight map can be printed and also shared in kind of a granular way or as a whole as well.
Great. Matt, what is the best way to get started with Altify Insights?
Yeah, the best way to get started is probably to head over to our website, uplandsoftware.com. But as far as, I'm sorry, can you clarify the question? Getting started?
Yeah, I think that just in general, getting started with us, come to our website, see an interactive demo. We have other resources for you, and then also speaking to someone just like Matt who can walk you through this in more detail. I think that's another great option.
And when we get to that point, that's the point when I'll start executing, utilizing our own relationship and insight map. So we'll be asking you questions that align to those insights you just saw. And in doing so, hopefully, if we decide to have a meeting together, I'll be able to share my insight map with you, and you can talk to me about those very goals, those pressures, those initiatives you have, the things that are keeping you up at night, and see if we have value to provide as well.
Excellent. Here's a question for you. Is this only available in Salesforce?
Yes, absolutely. It's actually a really good point. This is a Salesforce native application. And so any worries you may have had about data being outside of Salesforce, you don't have to worry about that at all. Sadly, if you are not utilizing Salesforce, this one's not for you.
A tangential question. Does this work well on Salesforce mobile app?
In fact, it does. So relationship and insight map do work on mobile responsive. But because of the nature of centralizing multiple people in one screen, literally, you might imagine that while it works, I wouldn't say it's the most optimal experience, simply because it's just a lot of information in one screen. It truly does work best in a desktop or tablet device.
Great. There's another question here. Is there a standalone app available?
Standalone outside of Salesforce?
I believe that's what the question is.
If that's the question, then no, we don't have a standalone application, but we do have the ability for you to work, if you're within Salesforce, we can even put this map inside of Equip. So if you'd like to put these maps elsewhere, you can have multiple maps inside of a Equip document. And so we have a lot of flexibility within the Salesforce platform, but no standalone outside of Salesforce.
Another one for you here, Matt. Can Altify Insights be used for customer success teams as well as sales teams?
Absolutely. That's in fact one of the best things you can do. As I mentioned in my story, having a true team coming together and working together inside of Altify Insights is kind of the point, right? We have all these people together on one map and all of the notes and the things that they care about most in one place, because we want our whole team to work together to take those notes and then ultimately to refer back to those notes when they have presentations, when they have cadence calls as a CSM. And so yes, this is perfect for customer success management teams. And here at Altify, we really like to consider CSMs as part of the revenue team, not a separate part of the team. So we highly recommend having your CSMs gain access to something like this. And one of the best things about Relationship Map is you saw me presenting with the name of the person who's the key player on my team who knows these folks, but we can also show NPS scores, product experience scores, or any other sort of customer success scores that can help your team understand these people at a deeper level.
Great. We'll give it another few seconds here for any other lingering questions. And of course, if something comes to mind after the session, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to answer your questions. And with that, I do want to let you all know that we will have another webinar coming up on September 7th, where we'll be showcasing Sales Process Manager. And you can register for that session today with the QR code that's on the screen. And we'll also send the link out in follow-up to register for that session as well. A couple more questions that came through last minute before we close. Can we get a copy of this video? Yes, the recording of the session will be available after the session is complete, and we'll send that out in follow-up. Is there a guide booklet on best practices? We do have content around Altify Insights on our website available to you, but the best solution for you there is to talk to us, have an in-person meeting or a over web meeting to talk through specific scenarios and see how the product can work for you, and we can work in your specific situation.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe worth noting there, Tim, that best practices can also depend on who you are and depend on, and this is the reason why Tim said having meetings really good idea. We do have a lot of content, as Tim said, but we also work with a lot of different verticals. And so depending on who you are and what you do, we have different best practices that'll help you execute on your operations, given that's the case.
Excellent. Well, oh, did we get one more question in there? This looks like TAS methodology. Good call out. Does your handout cover the methodology? We do have some information on methodology, but again, it's one of those things that we can have a more broader discussion in person and get you set up with the right information for you. I don't know, Matt, if you wanted to touch on TAS at all from your perspective.
Well, maybe there's two things we should really note about methodology. First is, out of the box, TAS is built into the app. You may have noticed when I was sharing screen, I didn't want to share every single feature with you simply because that can get kind of boring. So I didn't do that. But there is a feature called Max, and Max is built right into, this is our intelligent co-pilot, if you will, built right into the map that lives by methodology. Out of the box, that's TAS, but we're also configurable. And so Max helps target people and let your sellers know, hey, Patty's a good person you should speak with. In case there weren't those really easy to follow green lines, Max would usually sniff out that, hey, it would be very intelligent to speak with Patty because she might be able to help you get a meeting with Clara, et cetera, so on and so forth. And so we do have this intelligent co-pilot that is essentially living by methodology, and that methodology can be changed to any other which you may wish to do, and our team can help you do that as well.
Great, thank you for that, Matt. And thank you again, everyone, for your time, for your great questions, and taking some time out of your day to see Altify Insights firsthand. We'd love to see you at that next session on September 7th. And with that, I'll thank you again, Matt, for taking us through the demo, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody.